Schopenhauer's Key Concepts by John Vespasian. The Key Concepts in the Philosophy of Arthur Schopenhauer, 1788 to 1860, connected to ancient Stoicism and existentialism. Let us pass review to those concepts, which Schopenhauer first outlined in The World as Will and Representation, a book that he published in 1818. Schopenhauer built his philosophy around the theory of the will, life force. He viewed the will as the driver of all living creatures. It is a wild, irrational, eternal driver that prompts all creatures to secure their survival and reproduction and to seek pleasure. The problem with the will is that it doesn't assess any long-term consequences. It pushes individuals relentlessly to pursue short-term goals without considering the cost and risks. If you fail to become self-aware and adopt countermeasures, the will is going to take control of your life. Schopenhauer's concept of the will is similar to the concept of fate in ancient Stoicism. The writings of Seneca, 4-65 AD, and Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180 AD, present fate as irresistible, overwhelming, and uncontrollable. Schopenhauer's concept of the will. In terms of metaphysics, the most important concept from Schopenhauer's books is the primacy position given to the will. In his early book, On the Fourfold Root of the Principle of Sufficient Reason, 1814, Schopenhauer had argued that every event has a traceable cause. Subsequently, he acknowledged that the will has not because it is itself the underlying cause of all other phenomena. The ancient Stoics recommend leading a virtuous life as the best way to enjoy one's time on earth. Virtue averts suffering and enables happiness, even if nobody has the power to extend his own life beyond the lifespan determined by fate. Schopenhauer's concept of the good life also entails virtue, but calls for adopting countermeasures against the will. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius had regarded fate as overwhelming, but not Schopenhauer. He considered it feasible to grow self-aware and adopt measures to minimize the influence of the will. Schopenhauer's concept of reason. Like the ancient Stoics, Schopenhauer relies on reason to grasp the cosmos, reduce suffering, and attain happiness to the largest possible extent. He acknowledged that the will is eternal, but human beings can take temporary measures to minimize it. In his essay on the Will in Nature, 1832, Schopenhauer linked those measures to reason. Nature is wild and destructive if left to run its own course, but humans can think and define their own actions. Like the ancient Stoics, Schopenhauer aimed at achieving inner peace. The influence of the will renders people anxious, stressed, and intellectually short-sighted, he argued. That's why it is crucial to grow self-aware and cultivate prudence and self-discipline. Schopenhauer's concept of the universe is far more realistic than the concept put forward by Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. I disagree with their belief in a universe governed by reason. In Schopenhauer's writings, the will is described as wild and irrational. I think that his observations are accurate when one refers to nature. Proportion, harmony, and symmetry are human creations. The will, if left to operate undisturbed, leads to pain, destruction, and chaos. Schopenhauer's concepts of happiness and virtue. What about the concept of virtue? Schopenhauer praised the virtues of empathy and compassion above all. He held them in high regard because they increase our self-awareness and help us minimize the dire influence of the will. In his book, Two Fundamental Problems in Ethics, 1843, Schopenhauer emphasizes compassion as the primary virtue. I must point out that Seneca and Marcus Aurelius wouldn't have agreed with Schopenhauer on this point. In their eyes, integrity, justice, and equanimity play a larger role in ethics. Schopenhauer's concept of happiness diverges from the idea of eudaimonia, thriving, flourishing, put forward by Aristotle in his Nicomachean Ethics. Aristotle, 384 to 322 BC, considered happiness as the primary goal of human life and recommended sustained action to pursue it. In contrast, Schopenhauer focused his ethical advice on the reduction of suffering. He still viewed happiness as a primary goal, but one that is hard to achieve and even harder to sustain. His Parerga and Paralipomena, 1851, revolved around the reduction of suffering by increasing one's self-awareness, self-reliance, prudence, and foresight. Think out your moves before taking the next step. Secure adequate margins of safety. If you do all that, you are going to put the odds in your favor. Schopenhauer's concept of the meaning of life. For what concerns the meaning of life, Schopenhauer gave answers that paved the way for existentialist thinkers Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905 to 1980, and Albert Camus, 1913 to 1960. Schopenhauer rejected the idea of predestination. There is a relentless life force, the will, prompting all living creatures in a certain direction, but individuals remain free to cultivate their self-awareness, prudence, foresight, and self-reliance. The will is not providing humans with absolute meaning or narrow directions. That's why Schopenhauer determinately said no to the national spirit put forward by Johann Gottlieb Fichte, 1762 to 1814, and to the absolute spirit predicated by Friedrich Hegel, 1770 to 1831. Do not waste your time with Fichte's and Hegel's delusions. Instead of providing meaning to human life, they only generate distractions from important issues. The truth is that individuals are responsible to create their own meaning. Schopenhauer's concept of peace of mind. Sartre's and Camus' concept of existential fear doesn't exist in Schopenhauer's writings, but he did acknowledge that stress and anxiety are omnipresent in human life. To combat them, he drew inspiration from Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. While Sartre and Camus offer very little practical advice to improve one's life, I can only praise Schopenhauer's efforts in this respect. His Parerga and Paralipomena supply numerous suggestions to reduce anxiety and increase peace of mind. Schopenhauer took the Buddhist and Christian concepts of contemplation and created something new. He didn't care much for self-analysis and abstract speculation, but had gathered long experience in artistic contemplation, in particular with music. The regular practice of artistic contemplation can exert very positive influences on human psychology. Whether you choose music, painting, literature, theater, or any other art form, it is up to you. Schopenhauer's concept of artistic contemplation. According to Schopenhauer, the contemplation of beautiful artworks or nature can lift one's spirit and help us regain peace of mind, which he regarded as the first step to happiness. Schopenhauer occasionally employed satire in his writings. This fact has prompted some historians to compare him with Voltaire, 1694 to 1778. Indeed, Schopenhauer had read Voltaire, but the comparison is inaccurate. Voltaire's use of satire is extremely aggressive. He attacked specific persons and social institutions with bitter remarks. In contrast, Schopenhauer employed humorous, benevolent satire with the goal of driving his points home. Schopenhauer's polished, laconic style is delightful to read. His satire remains well-intended, and his concept of achieving happiness by reducing suffering and increasing peace of mind permeates his whole work. If you are interested in applying rational ideas to address all sorts of issues, I recommend my book, The 10 Principles of Rational Living. For more information, go to johnvespasian.com.